Yeah, she's gone nuts in his usual fashion. I'm afraid the reality of the industry is what they're not attending to.
We've learned who is the brains behind President Trump's latest suggestion that 100% tariffs are put on foreign films. The 86-year-old actor John Voight has been advising the president as one of his three special ambassadors to Hollywood. The other two are Mel Gibson and Sylvester Stallone. In front of a large American flag, John Voight explained his position.
My fellow Americans and my peers of Hollywood, I recently met with our President Donald J. Trump, who loves the entertainment business, wants to see Hollywood thrive and make films bigger and greater than ever before, as he says, and see productions come back to American Hollywood. The Hollywood that I fell in love with when I was a child and was honored to contribute to during my career. Our industry recently has suffered greatly, and many Americans have lost jobs to productions that have gone overseas. People have lost their homes, can't feed their families. After meeting with many of the entertainment leaders, I have brought forward recommendations to the president for certain tax provisions that can help the industry. Our president loves this nation and all the hardworking people in it. He's a great businessman, a leader, and a caring person that will always do the right thing for this country, the people, and our beloved entertainment industry. I'm proud to call the 47th President of the United States of America my friend, and as I've said before, he is the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. And yes, Sly, George Washington. That's Sly Stallone, my buddy. God bless everybody.
Well, there's a slightly strange way for John Voight to end that, but that is John Voight explaining what he would like to see the president do. Actor Brian Cox was also listening and joins us on the line now. Good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, what do you make of these plans by Donald Trump? We understand that John Voight had suggested some kind of tariff. It was right at the very end of his proposal list, but it seems that Trump has leapt on that.
Yeah, she's gone nuts in his usual fashion. I'm afraid the reality of the industry is what they're not attending to. I remember when I first started in Hollywood in the mid-90s, you couldn't get a studio, and it was really incredibly busy and fantastically busy. But then American productions, and these are American productions, have moved abroad. For example, George Lucas did the last Star Wars stuff, and that was all done in Australia. Now, that's the reality. The reality is they go for where they can afford. And I think that's what people are not quite realizing and quite understanding, really, from the point of view of, well, really, the point of view of how films are made and what films cost. And the cost for films gone up, and I think the cost for films in America went up considerably, which is why other avenues were taken. And also, it's not just Hollywood. You know, there are films being made in Atlanta. There are a lot of TV film production is made in New York. So it's not quite right to say it's Hollywood. Hollywood has been ignored. Well, things have moved on, not just in terms of Hollywood, but it's become nationwide in America. You know, as I say, films are made all over the place.
Yeah.
And for a time, films were made in Canada. So it's a kind of nonsense and a kind of, I'm afraid, divine ignorance on all their parts.
Do we understand why the costs are higher in America? I mean, one of our listeners messaged us in before to say that their wife, I think, works at Pinewood and had suggested that it's the unions. It's the unions in America that make the cost of films so extortionate, and that's why films have moved elsewhere.
I think that's partly true. I think that is absolutely true, because otherwise the films wouldn't have moved elsewhere. You know, I mean, everybody's looking to make a film for the reasonable amount of money, and they're going to go where they can afford to go and where they will get the best benefits. And that's why film has become much more international and less America-based. My only worry is about the film that is made like I've just directed my first movie with a very modest budget in Scotland, which is, we don't make a lot of films in Scotland. And the idea of 100% tariff on my film would be a disaster, an absolute disaster. So I just don't think this is thought through, and certainly not by John Voight. I mean, John Voight is notorious in his views, and they're usually wrong, I'm afraid.
Have you, I mean, you mentioned the impact it might have on the film that you've directed, and it would have a huge impact on the wider industry here too. It's something the government has talked about investing in. Have you raised those concerns, or will you raise them with the government?
Oh, you mean our government?
Yes, our government.
Yeah, I would happily raise the concerns. It hasn't happened as yet because this news of Trump's is fairly brand new, so we haven't really. I think people are still reeling from it, and it'll take a while to get out. And then this ridiculous speech you've just played of John Voight. I mean, it shudders. It makes me shudder. But John Voight has always been known as being very contentiously right wing. And that's a very right-wing view, if I may say so.
Is that a problem more broadly for America, for the American film industry? I mean, is there a risk now that the American film industry looks to pander to Donald Trump, and we see a change in the films that are commissioned that do get the go-ahead?
Well, they probably will. That'll probably be the effect. And actually, it will end up making everything much more expensive. It's going to have the opposite effect. It's not going to have the desired effect at all. It's going to have, 100% tariff is ridiculous. 100% tariff on a film like mine would be absolutely, we couldn't afford it. And we're just a very small production company based in Scotland doing this film. So I find that this generalized view is a sort of nonsense view, and not specific. It's not really specific about the fact that in America, in Atlanta, in New York, films are being made on a regular basis. Hollywood is not the same as it was, and it's naturally moved, organically, it's moved into a different direction. And that's completely understandable. I mean, and I think initially, and I think the lady at Pinewood is right, initially it was to do with the unions. They saw an opportunity to reap the benefits of it, and naturally, understandably, they went for it. Mm. So it's not about the fact that, and also, all of these productions, these big productions, and Marvel, the productions that are done here are American. They're American movies. We do an enormous amount of American movies. Now, if we retaliated by saying no more American movies will be made in Europe, that would be a problem. We won't do that because we're far too sensible, thank God, unlike what's going on presently in the United States. Well,
you referenced sensible, the government being sensible. I have to ask you before we let you go. I mean, the local elections at the end of last week, Labour didn't do very well at all. And lots of Labour MPs, some even very senior, are suggesting that part of the reason for that is the decision to cut the winter fuel payment or to means test it and to reduce who it goes to. Do you think that was Labour's biggest mistake? I mean, some people saying it might even lose them the next election. Do you think that could be true?
I think it was foolish. I think it was a very foolish thing to do, especially to affect the old in that way and the infirm. And I find that extraordinary. I completely disagree with that whole premise that they're cutting the winter fuel allowance, because we can get fierce winters, we can get quiet winters, and we do lose a lot of people during the winter. So I think it's wrong. I think I could never understand that in the first place.
And you would welcome, presumably, the news that Labour might be looking to U-turn on that decision?
Absolutely. I'm all for Labour. I'm an old Labour man myself. I'm all for that U-turn happening. And I think that is, we've seen now the rise of reform. Hopefully it's not going to rise any further, but it's worrying, and it's worrying that everything is going more oligarchical than social, shall we say. And I find that really problematic.
Brian Cox, thank you so much for giving us your time on the programme this morning. Great to have you.
Okay, you're welcome. Take care.
That was Brian Cox there talking to us about Donald Trump's latest suggestion for 100% tariffs on foreign films.